tell you whether he's one of them or not. But he had a terrible cold. He was going to go on a preaching tour. He tried everything in the world, couldn't get over it. Somebody said that if you'd smoke a cool cigarette, he'd take care of it. But he'd tried everything else. His nose was all knocked up, and he couldn't hardly breathe. And so he was going on a train trip, and he went down to the train station right here in Chicago, and went to the concession place and got him a package of cool cigarettes, and went back between the trains where nobody was, and reached for his pocket to get it, and heard some lady say, "Oh, Dr. So-and-so." He said, "I had my hand on the cigarette inside my pocket. In 2 seconds I'd have had it in my mouth, and she saw me." You say, "Brother Hyles, I have a hard time not smoking cigarettes." So did one of the greatest preachers in this world, and everybody here would know his name if I called it. Huh? Does that make you feel a little better? You're not the only dirty crook in the whole world, you know it? The rest of us dirty crooks too. There's no temptation taken you but such as is common to man. One day, I was flying on an airplane with Dr. Bob Gray. The plane took off and he held on, just like some nervous woman that had never flown before. And I said, "Dr. Gray, what's wrong? Are you sick?" He said, "No, we're taking off." And I said, "Bob, what's wrong with you? Haven't you ever taken off before?" He said, "Yeah, and I feel like this every time I take off." You know, I said, "Well, just don't put your whole weight down while we're up then." But you said, "Dr. Bob Gray, one of the greatest preachers in America?" Yes, one of the greatest preachers in America. Dr. Bob Gray! Listen, that fella had beads of perspiration across his face. His hands were clammy. Every time we'd hit a bump in the road, he'd hit an air pocket. He'd shake like that. And I said, "Dr. Bob." I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, one time I was on a flight," and he said, "we fell, I think 2,000 feet. Just all of a sudden something happened to the airplane and just fell 2,000 feet. And he said, we thought we were gone. Everybody but me." And I said, "Didn't you think you were gone?" He said, "No, I knew we weren't going to die." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I've always heard by people who are dying that when time comes to die, God gives you dying grace. And you dead sure hadn't given me grace to die at the time." And I thought, now I'd expected that from Joe McFuddlebody, who pastors out the Slippery Creek Baptist Church in Forks of the Rock, Texas. But Dr. Bob Gray, afraid to fly. Yeah, afraid to fly. I'll have to tell about that when I first started flying. I was afraid to fly as a paratrooper. Had jumped out 19 times, but never had landed in the airplane. I wasn't afraid to take off. Wasn't too much afraid to jump, but I was afraid to stay up. I was afraid it wouldn't stay up. And I was in Norfolk, Virginia. Had to fly from Norfolk, Virginia back to Washington, D.C. and change planes to go to Dallas, Texas, where I was pastoring then. And so a snowstorm came. Biggest snowstorm in the history of Norfolk, Virginia came. And a plane took off for 2 days in Norfolk Airport. Well, it was Friday night, and I had to, after the service, and I had to take off. I got back to Washington Saturday morning. Didn't have jets in those days. Had to fly DC-7, and it took about 6 hours to fly from Washington to Dallas, and only hope I had to preach on Sunday was to fly. I went out to the airport. Oh, you couldn't even see the runway. Not a plane had taken off for 2 days. And I was scared to death, absolutely scared to death. And so the announcement came, said, "Flight so-and-so to Washington, take off in a few minutes. Gate so-and-so." I said, "Oh, so my soul, that's my flight. I've got to get on that thing. You can't even see the runway." And I said, "I'm scared to death." So I thought, well, I'll try to get a bus. I went right quick and called a Greyhound bus, and I said, "Do you have a bus going to Washington?" I was afraid to fly. I didn't want on that plane. They said, "No, every road is blocked between here and Washington, D.C., and only way you can get there is to fly." I said, I know. I know what I'll do. I'd had a little stomach flare up down in Texas, and the doctor had given me some phenobarbital pills to take before I ate to calm my stomach. And one of those pills will calm your stomach, and 2 will make you feel much better, and 3, whee! And so I took the whee dose, and I went to the restroom, got on the plane, and took 3 phenobarbital pills. That's more than anybody ought to take. But I thought they'd put me out. I'd go to sleep. And that's Dr. Jack Hyles. That's not some little old piddling Christian like Bob Billings. That's Dr. Jack Hyles. That's not some little old piddling U.S. congressman. That's Dr. Jack Hyles. And so I got on the airplane, sat down beside a fellow, and the fellow said, "Hey, aren't you Dr. Jack Hyles?" I said, "Yes, I am." "Man," he said, "I'm so glad to see you. Boy, I never was glad to see anybody in my life." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I was afraid to fly on this plane." He said, "My, to see you on this plane. I feel so much better with a man of God sitting beside me on this plane." I said, "Thank you. I'm glad you do." He said, "You'll never believe this." He said, "You'll be ashamed when you hear this." He said, "But I went and called a bus terminal and asked them if they had a bus going to Washington." I said, "You didn't." He said, "That isn't all." He said, "I took some tranquilizers while I go in the restroom." I said, "You did?" Now he said, "Dr. Hyles, you're one of my favorite preachers." Now listen to me. There was one of his 2 or 3 favorite preachers in the whole world. And there was a little Christian man that never preached a sermon in his life that I didn't even know. And yet he and I had the same fears and took the same measures to alleviate them. I'm saying, over and over again, I've seen it. People, same temptation in the Bible, great men of God. Let me say, did you know even Jesus had the same trouble? Jesus. Jesus didn't want to die. He said, "If it were possible, let this cup pass from me." He had the same temptations and the same fears. Did you know that the man that's speaking to you right now has the same fear of death that you have? Oh, I'm not afraid of where I'm going to go. I just don't want to go that route. I'd 10,000 times rather Jesus come back. And if somebody told me right now, "I'm going to shoot you in the head, get ready to die," I don't think I'd say, "Well, glory to God, I'm just happy to die." Now, I don't mind what's going to take place after that, but I just don't want to go bloody, that's all. And I don't mind. And this fellow said, I'm not afraid to go to heaven, but don't want to take the next bus, you know. And same apprehensions, same fears. Forgive me for putting it, but I think that's one reason many of you come to hear me preach. People say, "We can identify with you." You know why? I have the same fears you have. If I can find some of the answers to help those fears, then I can tell you what answers I found, and maybe the same answers that I found will help you. No temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. Same fears. I don't want to grow old. Neither do you. Every time a hair falls out, I have a funeral service for it, and so forth. I don't want, and I don't smile much as I used to. You know why I don't smile much? Because when I smile, my crow's feet. No, they're more like eagle's feet now up here. And you say, "Well, how's you in trouble?" Yeah, same problem. I stand in front of the mirror and try to cover up my bald spot just like you do. And I fail just like you do. See, there's no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. Same weaknesses? Yeah. Get tired? Yeah. Frustrated? Yeah. Ever get mad? Yeah. Ever want to choke somebody? Yeah. Ever want to tell something that isn't true? Yeah. There's no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. I was down in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, preaching, and I was so tired. I didn't know why I was so tired. And I realized why I got sick. And, I was sick. Oh, when I get sick, nobody's as sick as I am when I get sick. In the first place, a man gets sicker than a woman. I can prove it. If you don't believe it, you just listen to them suffer and see who's the sickest. And if you don't believe a man gets sicker than a woman does, ask any man, he'll tell you. And, I was sick. Oh, my. And I preached, and I had 103 fever, and preached again. I barely could preach. And I went home that night and decided I was tired, and I got clear fever.